Namaste friends, this is me Prayas and you are watching Learn with Prayas YouTube channel. Friends, today in this video I am going to discuss about the one of the major trade finance instrument which is letter of credit. I had also discussed about another major trade instrument that is bank guarantee already. Please watch that video if you hadn't watched it yet. You can find the link of the video on the description box or as a card in the top left corner. Now here I'm going to discuss about what is letter of credit, which parties are involved in letter of credit, and how letter of credit is issued. At first, now let's start with introduction of letter of credit, that is LC. Letter of credit is one of the major and widely used trade finance instrument issued by bank or a financial institution is a trade and payment mechanism, especially in international trade. Generally, LC is used for trade agreement of parties, that is buyer and seller, in different countries or in long distance. Being far from each other, they generally have trust issues between themselves. Buyer might think, what if I paid and goods or product was not delivered by seller? And seller might think, what if I deliver the goods and product and buyer does not pay the amount? Hence, to eliminate these trust issues, banks comes between the two as a third party and issues the letter of credit in favor of seller, which guarantees the payment to the seller and also protects the buyer for non-delivery of product from seller. Further, LC is also issued in a domestic trade if buyer and seller feels a need of a same. However, in this case, both buyer and seller are from same country. Moreover, bank issues the LC by accepting some kind of collateral in form of real estate or cash from buyer. Further, they also charge small commission amount from buyer to issue the LC. Hence, letter of credit is a letter issued by bank to another bank or seller, especially in different country, to serve as a guarantee for payments of seller for the goods purchased by buyer under specific conditions. Here, if the buyer fails to make the payment as per the letter of credit, bank, that is buyer's bank, covers the full or remaining amount on behalf of buyer. Friends, now let's understand the parties involved in a LC and LC issuance process with one example. There are various parties involved while issuing the LC and while settlement of LC also. They are as follows. Applicant. Applicant is those who is willing to buy goods from a seller and request a bank for issuance of LC. They are also known as a buyer, or in international trade, they are also known as an importer. Bank issues the LC on behalf of this. Now, issuing bank, which is also known as applicants or buyer's bank, are those who issues the letter of credit on behalf of buyer for the trade agreement or sales purchase agreement between seller and buyer. Further, issuing bank forwards the LC to advising bank to notify the beneficiary after issuance. Moreover, they are also liable to pay the beneficiary LC amount, that can be full or a remaining amount in LC, if applicant fails to do so or fails to pay. Now, beneficiary in LC are those who is willing to sell their goods to the buyer according to the trade agreement between themselves. Themselves means seller and buyer. Further, issuing bank issues the LC favoring the beneficiary or seller. They are also known as an exporter in international trade. Talking about the confirming bank is a bank other than issuing bank that confirms the letter of credit issued by issuing bank on behalf of beneficiary to add extra layer of protection to beneficiary for the payments of their sale or export. The confirming bank is also liable to pay full or a remaining LC amount to beneficiary if both applicant and issuing bank fails to do so. Now, beneficiary can use various or only one bank at their end. According to the works, beneficiary's bank can be advising bank, negotiating or nominated bank. Beneficiary can also use only one bank for all these works. An advising bank are those banks that are generally located in beneficiary's country and they advise or notify the beneficiary that the LC has been issued by issuing bank. Further, they also authenticate the LC issued by issuing bank to avoid the fraud. However, they are not liable to any kind of credit or a payment to beneficiary. Negotiating or nominated bank are those that receive and examine the seller's document for verification and confirm the terms and conditions under LC on behalf of beneficiary to avoid the discrepancies. Further, they also forward the document of beneficiary to issuing bank for the claim of the payment. So it is the bank at which credit is available for beneficiary. This bank needs to be mentioned in LC at the time of issuance, or LC can also issued by stating negotiation with any bank. In case of specific bank mentioned as a negotiating bank in LC, the beneficiary shall submit the document to that specific bank only. However, if ELC is issued by stating negotiation with any bank, beneficiary is free to choose any bank for document presentation. Now let's assume a firm in Nepal named Bijay Impex does a sales purchase agreement to import or buy 100 units of television worth $10,000 from a firm in China named Guangzhou Electronics. Now the firm in Nepal, that is Bijay Impex, is a buyer or importer and asks for the issuance of LC with his bank in Nepal. Let's say that bank is Siddhartha Bank, by providing a performer invoice which shall be provided to importer by exporter or seller, that is Guangzhou Electronics. Here, if BJ Impex had approved LC limit in Siddharth Bank, it can directly ask to issue the LC by providing a document as per the approved terms. But if it does not have any approved LC limit, it need to first obtain an approved LC limit by offering some collateral in form of real estate, cash, etc. to bank. After receiving LC issuance application or request along with a performer invoice, bank, that is Siddhartha Bank, now proceed for issuance of LC. Here, as defined earlier, BJ Impex is applicant, Guangzhou Electronics is beneficiary, and Siddhartha Bank is LC issuing bank. Further, the provided performer invoice should include applicant and beneficiary's detail, goods detail like name, quantity, rate, harmonic code, etc., shipment detail, confirmation detail, that is confirmation needed or not, who to pay the banking charges, type of LC, negotiating bank, and Incoterm, etc. In case of this example, let's say confirmation is demanded by beneficiary in performer invoice. So now Siddhartha Bank will approach the Bank of China to confirm the LC. Here, Bank of China becomes confirming bank. After the confirmation is obtained, Siddhartha Bank will now forward the issued LC to Bank of Guangzhou via Swift or a telegraph to advise it to beneficiary. After receiving a issued LC document, Bank of Guangzhou now authenticate the LC and notify the same to beneficiary, that is Guangzhou Electronics. After beneficiary got the LC document, he then ships or exports the good as per the issued LC to applicant. Here, negotiating or nominated bank are in work on issuing the export LC, which is same LC issued by issuing bank, but the perspective to look at it is different from applicant and beneficiary. And they are also in work after the document presentation by beneficiary or during LC settlement process, which I will discuss in later videos. Friends, this is all about what is letter of credit, parties involved in it, and LC issuance process. I hope you have clearly understood the things I have discussed today. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button If you have any queries about the today's content, you can tell me about the same in comment box. I will try to answer as far as possible. In future videos, I will be discussing more about LC, like types of LC used in international trade, Incoterms in LC, and how to fill up LC application form properly, etc. So don't forget to subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon. Thank you all.